True Terrain 4.4 has been released and it is really great. So you can see some scenes I have already done some exercises with, and I want to share in this first video about 4.4 how to create that, and that's the one we're going to make. Okay, let's do this. So here is the landscape I have created with the new option of having height maps immediately available in True Terrain 4.4. I used Grassland 001 over here, and I have scaled it to 200 by 200. I increased the subdivision from 8 to 10, gives me more geometry, and I have used Nishita Sky with the setting over here. And bear in mind that in the color management I'm using medium high contrast and an exposure of -3, because otherwise Nishita would be a little bit too strong. So as you can see, right, so before we start texturing, my recommendation is always to have a reference of scale in your scene. And in this case, I have downloaded this awesome post-apocalypse biker from Sketchfab, totally free. The link will be in the description. Awesome artist. I have also included his Artstation link, so go ahead and follow him. Amazing art. Definitely worth a look and following him. Okay, let's start with the texturing. So what we're going to do is head over to the shader, add material. Here's the standard material that comes in, and I will use this one from the Bergpack. Why? Because first of all, because it already has two different textures in it. There's a gray ground and some grass on it, and as you can see, two things are very recognizable. The first thing is the scale is not right. It could work because, you know, the little stones, they work, but there's a lot of reflection in there. So let's head over to our setting, increase the roughness, and if that is not enough, go over here to the PBR conversion and use roughness to glossy and bring that down, and we have maybe decrease the specularity as 1, something like this. Okay, now you have two options to scale. The first one is the texture mapping, and the second one is the advanced mapping. And bear in mind that anti-tile as a function is on by default, which I have found in for ground texturing is a good thing to have on. Okay, so no, let's keep it like this. So I'm using the UV map for the ground, and as you can see, looks totally different and actually looks quite good. However, those stones are a little bit too large for me, so in the UV map, increasing this value will make your texture, well, not smaller but more fitting, and I think that's fine. Let's do 1.5. Okay, that looks good. And I'm going to take another, so I'm mixing that with a secondary ground, which we will, that's another great feature. So you can see this icon, which is the last texture I used. Excuse me, but when I've activated the secondary ground, it switched back to the initial texture, and now in 4.4, if you click show active texture, it shows you exactly what textures you're seeing on that layer. So let's take something earthy like this and repeat the same procedure. So first of all, I'm going to make this a little bit rougher. Okay, just, yeah, and then go to advanced mapping, use the UV map, and 1.5. Well, we can actually make this a little bit smaller, like so, so the cracks actually look fine. I'm not happy how glossy this is. That's better. That's far too much. Let's bring that back. You have to play with these things because some maps okay, that did the trick. Okay, we've got two grounds in there, but as you can see, in the foreground we seem to have only the secondary ground. So we head down to the blend settings and click the preview button. Yeah, and the secondary ground is the black one. So this is all black, so it's not giving me a mixture between first ground and secondary ground. So what we're going to do, we have a couple of options to change that. So the first thing is, if I'm changing that, the higher this value is, the more patchy it gets. But actually, as I want this mainly for the foreground, this could work quite well. Let's take a look. Yeah, that's okay, but I want even more mixture in this part. So you know what, with this we can, so the mask expansion just makes the bits larger, and that could work as well. Let's take a look. Right, or we could just move the whole map along our individual axis. The preview window is perfect for that. So too much black, too much white. You know what, that was actually okay, which we had over there. So we already have our foreground done. And now we're doing very quickly our cliffs. We'll stick with one texture again, went back to this one, and I'm going to stay light. And with this, with cliffs, I always, well, I've experienced that it's good to have anti-tile off and use the texture mapping option, because then you're totally free to scale this up as much as you want and as much as the texture is allowing you to do. So for example, we could go like this. Let's see how that looks. Looks okay from here. Yeah, that's actually fine. Let's try it with 100. No, that breaks it up. 50, 25. I think I like this. Crack here, so let's leave it at that. Let's go back and see if we're still at 10. We can try to see what 11 would look like. Yeah, we can go with 11. Now let's take a look how the cliffs are blending. And as you can see, there's a lot of white, which is our cliff, and our ground textures are a little bit lost. So what we're going to do is go to blending, and we've got 3 options there as well. Well, actually more, we've got 4 options. I'm never using the ground cutoff, but the first thing I always do is I decrease this to 0, and then we have no cliff texture at all. And then I'm slowly bringing this up. That already looks much better, but I'm going to use extra details, making this a little bit more intense over here, and we can expand that and take a look how that works. So everything that is black, yeah, that looks actually quite okay. That's fine. And eventually that is how you texture your landscape on a very, very basic, in a very basic way. Now, for everyone who is interested to make this a little bit more interesting, stick around, because what we're doing now is play with new options. Let's stay with the cliff and go to the detail map, because there we now have the displacement strength, which is at open. And for the cliffs we can be a little bolder. We carefully increase the normal map, or the normal strength, and the detail distance makes a lot of difference as well. You can see it over here, you can see it there. I like that a lot. And then we don't need the scaling options anymore. We're going to the color variants, because there we can put some light patches, and they're actually too much. Let's go with 0.2. We can put in some dark patches, which I like. And then here you can play with the patch location, the height, the patch amount, the distortion, things like that. But what's very interesting is an AO based dirt and weathering effect. So what does this do? You can see how this has become much darker and actually more interesting. So let's go with 0.5. Let's take a look here. Okay, and what does weathering do? Makes everything white, but that's a little bit too much. So let's go with 0.2 here as well. And we've got this cool weathering, especially here. It looks very nice. And that's what we're going, how we're going to leave that. We can do the same thing with the ground. Let's go to our active texture. This is this one. We're not going to do weathering and dirt on the ground map, but what we're going to do is go to our detail map. Remember, these bits are the first. We can increase the normal and displacement a bit, and the detail distance as well. And you can see these things almost pop out. And we're going to do the same thing with the secondary ground. Detail map, displacement, normal, and something like this, making those cracks almost too much. So not almost, it is too much. Let's bring this down again. Right, let's leave it at that. Okay. Okay, now we can do a first render and see how this looks like. First of all, as you know, save as, files, well, let's do it right here. TT44 Bikerscape. So nothing can happen. And let's give this render. All right, doesn't look that bad, does it? Okay, next step. Let's make it even more interesting. And how are we going to do that? By adding some vegetation. So the thing is, and that's what I mentioned before, as this is a GeoNode displacement, we cannot simply go into weight paint, and although it's blue, everything is set up. If I'm painting in here, nothing happens because there's no real geometry behind it. We've got two options. The first option is to go over here and apply this modifier, and then we will have this option. Or we'll learn something and work with the brilliant scattering and modifier system of true terrain. So what we're going to do is, first of all, let's head over to assets, and we're going to put some trees in here and over there. So let's take an oak tree, go from planar to medium, go to place, click to place, and then just click where you want your trees to be. These trees are 3D models and not part of a scattering system, so each of them can be individually changed afterwards. Let's do it over here, like so. And right click to make those stick. You can see as they're put on the normal, this one isn't that brilliant. Alt R, and we have a proper rotation. That is okay. We're just going to bring this in a little bit more. And these are actually fine. I like this. Okay, good. This one's okay as well. Those are, no, this is okay. So let's do some grass. And the problem now with grass is that you need a lot of it to actually look good. So what we're going to do is we're heading over and taking, I don't know, let's take river grass and scatter. As you can see, here's one, there is one, here is one. So first of all, we're going to decrease the distance to 0 because those items don't need any distance. And what we're going to do now is, first of all, we go to modifiers and we'll take the modifier scatter around. And then we're going to pick this tree and then go, no, sorry, and then we're going to increase the radius to something like 2. Well, that's okay. And then don't see anything yet because we are so low in density. But right now you can already see that in a radius of 2 meters around this object it has been scattered. So that is that. It's all actually the scale seems to be okay as well. Let's go back to asset, and we've got one. Let's go to the viewport display of 2.5, so, and that to 10. So we are seeing a quarter of the assets that we will eventually see. So what we're going to do now is we're going to duplicate that go to asset settings and change that to ribbon grass. And then we head over to the distribution seat, because if we don't change that, then they would sit exactly on top of the river grass. So let's change that. As you can see, that already works. Again, we're seeing 25% of this. We should make this much more, and looks okay. And the great thing is the modifier has been duplicated as well. We've got the scatter round on this tree. And what we're going to do now is we're going to duplicate that as again. Go to our asset settings. So we've got river and ribbon, and now we're taking, great, let's take desert grass. Change the distribution seat, and in the modifier we're actually going to delete that, and as you can see, there's a lot going on. We're going to pick this tree. And let's do this with 1.5, like so. And maybe if we're taking a look at the desert grass, I probably could also increase the scale a little bit. So let's make it 1 and 1.5, like so. And let's try this again and render it. Okay, so quite okay, but as you can see, it's still not enough, so we definitely need to up this. And in the meantime, we can also go in here. So I think the ribbon grass could use even more. So if we go to 1, okay, right, so let's do 50. Always making the same mistake, and that was, I was wondering why I don't see any change, because desert grass is selected and I have only made ribbon grass visible. I need to select it as well. And now when we go to scatter and we increase that to 50, we should see more stuff coming in. And if I'm going to view, which is very risky, yeah, but 0.25, honestly I think this could use even more. Let's go to 150. And to top it all off, we're going to our assets. We got some great flowers, so let's take these and place them. Click to place, like here, here, here. Maybe we put one here. Can put one there. right click and maybe, I don't know, Bird of Paradise, click to place, over there, one here, one there, one here. And one there. Right click, take this one, bring this a little bit more in so it's peeking through, like so. And let's do another render. Yes, yes, thank you, I've heard that. Save it. And let's do the render. All right. So that was our first render. That was our second. And this is our third. A little bit much vegetation, but I actually like it. Now, the only thing we need to address now is this whole bit. We've got no clouds, we got nothing. So we have a couple of options. For you, all of you who have true sky, I mean, that would be, of course, the best solution. But not everyone has that. So what you can do is work with HDRI, which gives you even more realistic lighting, and most of them come with clouds. So that's one option. Or you can make this. You can do this, not addressing the sky right now. So first of all, we're going to take our landscape and copy it linked with Alt D. And bring that to the back. I hope this works. So we can kind of extend our landscape, and we can now rotate it so the end of the landscape is not visible, but it gives us much more. Okay, let's go back to this view, bring this a little bit more to the back. Okay, my system is struggling. Like so. And let's take a look. And the last thing we're gonna do is put some water between those two terrains. But my system is out of GPU memory, so what we're going to do is make that so, and what we're going to do is bring in some water. Let's do the tropical lagoons, or I don't know which level you have, so let's take let's take lake waters, add a water, and that's new as well. We now don't scale it and apply the scale, we've got a geometry as well. So let's do this like 1,000 meters, and bring this up, which would work well, but we're drowning our, let's do this like this and bring this down like so. give this a render and try. Let's see if the render works. Well, look at that. Blender is weird. Not enough GPU memory to render the viewport, but it's strong enough to render the whole image. I don't complain. I think it looks very nice. I don't want to bother you with clouds and HDRIs. I'm pretty sure you can make this scene even more awesome. It's just a first look into True Terrain 4.4, and I hope there was something in it that was interesting to you, and see you at the next video. Bye.